Добрий день і вітаю.
Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joins us. My name is Olga Atamanova, and Ukraine Media Center continues its operation today. Now we will be talking on an important topic. We will be talking about counter situation in Israel. We will be talking about jeopardization in Middle East and about the activities of our embassy in Israel. Joining us online is Yevgen Korniychuk, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Ukraine to Israel. Good afternoon, Mr. Yevgen. Good afternoon, Mr. Yevgen. I would like to ask you about the current situation, what it is like now. We see a lot of materials by different journalists coming up these days, and there are a lot of different versions about what is about to come, about some potential massive attacks on Israel. So what is the situation for the time being? Well, the situation for the time being is quiet. I would not exaggerate the threat because it's a Middle Eastern proverb that the dog that barks never bites. It's in local culture, you know, like, I'm gonna hit you like this, look at me, like, hold me, and then nothing happens. And it doesn't happen for a long time because we are in this mode of permanent intimidation for more than a week now after the liquidation of Khani in Iran. But people continue living their lives, continue sitting in the restaurants, continue staying in the beach. There are no air raid alerts, no alarms. So what I would like to tell our citizens that it's not desirable to plan your journey to Israel, not only because of the security issues, but also because of the complexity of the situation. The majority of the airlines refuse to fly to Israel. It's related to the insurance that not everybody can afford. It makes the insurance more expensive, and hence the cost of ticket is higher. So if any Ukrainians ended up in Israel and cannot leave, my recommendation is to buy the tickets from Israeli airlines who fly in and out without any obstacles. Mr. Yevgen, can we safely state that there are no restrictions for entering Israel for the time being? Well, what I can say that thanks to the work of our embassy, and not only our embassy, there were statements made by, for example, our Moldovan partners. The Israelis postponed the electronic visas for 6 months, so they will be only implemented after the beginning of the new year. So we have some time to prepare. I know that NSDC and other agencies of ours are considering mirror responses, because it's a useful story that we need, specifically during the big war, the control of our border, the control of entering of foreign citizens into Ukraine. So there are basically no restrictions so far. Formally, the tourists who arrive in Israel for the term less than 90 days, they have to just demonstrate their return ticket, their hotel booking to the bodyguard service, and that's pretty much it. Mr. Yevgen, talking about the Ukrainians staying in Israel, did you have any requests from them to get them back home in relation to such events that may be upcoming? And is there any plan B in case you get any such requests? Well, let me remind you that after the big act of terrorism on the 7th of October, we resorted to evacuation of our citizens, but situation was different back then. We were ordering charters that people were paying for. Basically, they were paying the net cost of the ticket. Meanwhile, the cost of ticket back then was about 2,000 euro one way. Those tickets that we offered were about 300 euros with transit through Moldova or Romania. But in this case, we never had any requests about evacuation so far. There were inquiries about what to do in case of flight cancellation. But again, I won't repeat myself, just buy the Israeli airline ticket, everything operates as usual, and there are no specific remarks that I can make in terms of evacuation. Mr. Ambassador, what are your observations about the attention to the war in Ukraine, given the events unfolding in Israel? Well, it creates significant obstacles for us. I mean, it creates obstacles for our information work, both in Israel, Europe, and the United States. There's a lot of attention to the war in Israel. It cannot be compared to our war, not by the scale, not by the losses, not by the scale of destruction, but it creates concerns in the West. And the more Israelis watch the events unfolding in Ukraine, Iran, Israel, the consultations of Russian Federation with terroristic groups of Hezbollah and Hamas, the journeys of Russian officials to Iran, they understand that we have the common enemy, the common axis of evil, not only Iran but Russian Federation as well, and it's perceived quite clearly by the military and civilians. The situation is a bit more complicated with the government, but I think that even if they don't say it publicly, they clearly understand who is on whose side. And the last question about our refugees, we understand that Israel was receiving our refugees who were fleeing the war in Ukraine. So are people still supported over there in Israel? Are any support programs still in effect over there? Well, look, since the beginning of the war, before the Hamas invasion of Israel from Gaza Strip, the number of our citizens who were looking for refuge was amounting 25,000. Different figures, different time, but even before that act of terrorism in Israel, our citizens were realizing that Israel does not provide the full-fledged refugee status. Israel does not provide housing, financial support, and only then the embassy was able to seek the extension of tourist visas for our citizens and the right to work. And the majority of the Ukrainian citizens staying here now, well, the number of them is way lower, about 12 to 13,000 people who still stay in Israel. They are all employed. They have close friends or relatives. No one comes here for no reason, because everybody understands that the conditions for refuge in Europe are better. And what we were also able to seek is the medical insurance for certain categories of citizens of elder age, which is paid by the government of Israel. I don't think I need to emphasize that now the economy of Israel is experiencing not the best times after the Hamas invasion and the beginning of the war here. That's why we shouldn't wait for anything better. We continue to equalize the situation in the course with regard to the status, to specific types of visas that would be extended to our citizens. We have some achievements in this area. Our citizens clearly understand what I'm talking about. Everybody keeps track of the embassy website. We continue covering the situation in Israel in full. We continue providing sponsor support through our sponsors to our communities in Ashdod, Haifa, and other communities that require such support, and people do appreciate it. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for joining our broadcast. Dear colleagues, I'm reminding you, joining us was Yevgen Korniychuk, the Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Ukraine to Israel, and we continue working together for a victory. Thank to our armed forces. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes.